keep neat and tidy.
Sure.
Awesome. So welcome to the show officially. I think a nice way to start is take me to, it's 2 a.m. I think on Friday morning at the games this year. What's happening? Set the scene for me.
Yeah, so 2 a.m. day 2 of competition it's going to be. So we've already done day 1, had a rest day, did all the recovery the rest day, like felt really good, wasn't really sore, went to bed, super excited for day 2. Woke up at 2 a.m. just losing it from both ends. Yeah, just throwing up, diarrhea. Like, I don't think I've been that sick ever. And it's probably the worst day.
Mm-hmm. How was the comp going for you up until that point?
Good. I think I was sitting in 11th going into that day. So I was thinking, okay, break the top 10 and then hopefully just stay around there the weekend and see what I can do. But yeah, then it became a whole new challenge as soon as that started.
Yeah. And did you have, like, I hesitate to use the word expectations, but intentions, hopes, aspirations, particular goals for this games?
Yeah, like I say, I wanted to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
That was my main goal.
Okay, sweet. So when it was 2 a.m. and losing it from both ends, what's going through your mind?
Everything. Well, you know the cut system, how it works. You can't just sit out a day and be like, "Oh, I'm sick today. Like, I'll come tomorrow though," and just maybe hopefully win a few events. And yeah, if you don't compete, you're cut, so you're done. So I knew either I figure it out or my games are going to be over.
Yeah, that must be a challenge to have that in your mind. Like, you worked a whole year, like you've and not to mention the years and years and years before that. Yeah, that it must feel like there's a lot on the line.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about, good thing, or else I probably would have started crying. I wasn't thinking about like, oh, I've worked all year for this. Like, I was just more like focused on, I want to be able to compete. I wasn't thinking the sacrifices I'd made and how hard I'd worked. And I think I was just like the main, like, I want to be able to go out there and do it. And right now I can't even sit up without feeling nauseous. So the thing I had on my side was a little bit of time, I guess. I mean, it's only 2 a.m. I didn't have to compete till like 10. So I was like, maybe some miracle can happen in these hours.
So you've obviously prepared, like, we're going to get into this a lot. You've prepared a lot for this kind of experience, or for like what goes wrong. What impressed me straight away is like, okay, you're focusing on the controllables. Like, what can I do? Whereas I think people who haven't trained their mentality, haven't trained their mindset, come in with this perspective of like, oh shit, this is all out of my control, and go to like my line of questioning there, which is like, I've worked so hard for this, like I've put so much into this, and like, I'm not saying there wasn't any of that, or there wasn't like doubt in there, but like you're straight into the controllable factor.
Yeah, I think you say I've prepared for it. Yeah, I've prepared mentally. Didn't specifically prepare, okay, like if you get sick, this is what you do. Like, when do you ever think that's going to happen at a competition, right? But I guess when you prepare for all these unknowable things that are going to happen, that's one of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you really can't control getting sick or getting the flu, right? Like, if your body's throwing up something, like, that's what's happening. And you can't just stop that. If you're mentally strong, you just can't be like, oh, like, I'm not sick anymore. Like, I was sick.
So what tools did you implement? What strategies did you use, or what was your line of thinking in that moment?
I think just I would say, okay, 9 a.m. comes around and my coach says, okay, well, let's just like get out of bed, try to get dressed and get to the venue for the athlete brief. So I think, so that was my first goal, like, just get dressed, brush my teeth, get in the car. And then kind of like small goals. Okay, once I'm in the car, I can lie down. And so I kind of lied down, hugging the ice bucket, the hotel ice bucket, the puke bucket, like slumped against the window. Just make it there. Once I made it there, okay, just sit through the athlete brief. don't throw up. Once I made that, I was like, okay, now we usually have an hour or so after the athlete brief to kind of warm up. And luckily the guys were first that day, so I had an extra 45 minutes maybe. So I just kind of lied down there and, one thing at a time. And it was at that point, my mental coach, Brett, messaged me and he said, remember Michael Jordan? I don't know if you've read Tim Grover, Relentless, but Michael Jordan, who gets sick the night before one of his biggest games. I think somebody food poisoned him. I think that's what they say in the book, but
it's a suspicion, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So sick as a dog. Sounds like he was sick like I was, just losing everything, and gets up the next day and plays one of his best games. So he's like, you can do it. If he's done it, you can do it. Like, so I was like, okay, well, I don't have an excuse.
That's nice. It's nice having your excuses kind of taken away from you, like, because you can rely on that as a crutch. And like the difference is often choosing the difficult path or the meaningful path or the easy path. And like, it's obviously not easy to take the difficult path and to say, actually, there's no excuse. There's no reason for me to not commit 100% to this. What shifted in your mentality at that point when it's like, I have no excuses?
I would say that text from my coach, that really hit home, because it's so easy to be like, well, I'm sick. Well, yeah, you physically are. You can't be like, oh, like I feel sick today, but it's fine. Like your body's physically sick, like it's telling you something. So that's even harder, because you can't lie about it and be like, it's fine, like I'm fine. Like, you're not fine. But yeah, I think that text, reading that, I was like, okay, well, like there must be a way to do it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Again, like that ability is just that there's going to be a way. I'm going to find something. What happened in those moments after, like you warming up, you get that text, and then walking out on the floor, or I can't remember where the first event of the day was, but what happened as you progressed through that?
Yeah, it was outside event. It was rope climbs, ski erg, and sandbag carry. And I was really excited for that event because I thought I could do quite well. So, you can look at it both ways. You could be like, oh, I kind of missed an opportunity there because I was just kind of getting through it. Finished, I think, just under mid-pack. And I think I could have been, top 5 or something. But on the other hand, you could look at it, well, what if it was a really hard event for you? And then maybe you wouldn't have got through it. Like, who knows? So, yeah, I think just deciding that I'm going to do it. I remember kind of getting up and doing some leg kicks. I tried to ski a bit. I got really dizzy and nauseous again, so I kind of sat down. But I kind of just trusted my ability and didn't warm up much because I had no energy. But I kind of just knew that once I decided I was going to do it, I was going to do it. And there was no like, but I'm going to get on the field and sit down. Like, yeah. I'm going to do it.
And then was this in your mind as you're going through the event, or was it something that you were consciously managing, or was it something you tried to push aside for that and just focus on strategy?
I'm trying to think of what I was thinking in the event. You know what? I was pretty into the event. I remember the girl next to me was going at kind of the same speed. So I was just kind of shake her or keep up to her on the rope climbs. And yeah, I was pretty mentally invested in what I was doing at that point. But yeah, I just remember telling myself, like, just get through this. Is 13 minutes. Like, how cool would that be if I could do it, get through today, and then we'll win an event tomorrow? Because I knew Saturday there was a really good event for me that I possibly could win. So I was like, I just got to get through this so I can do tomorrow.
And then how did this bleed into the rest of the games?
I think just getting through that day was like probably the biggest milestone that I knew I was going to have to go through at the games. And yeah, I think once I made it through the day, I think there was 4 events after that event.
Yeah, it was a
So
big day.
it was a big day. I think, yeah, I don't want to say I felt invincible, but I kind of felt similar because I was like, oh, if I did that, if I can get through that, like, come at me, like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the like, was there a lesson you learned from this? Is there like something you'd go, okay, I'm going to remember that for the future? Is there like a, yeah, maybe not a lesson, but like something you're taking away from this?
I think just you can push your body way more than you think.
Yeah.
Like your physical boundaries are here, but like mentally, it's like if you can be strong there, you can do anything really.
Yeah. You proved that pretty effectively there. The other story I've got, and I've got nothing about this whatsoever, but doing my research, my sneaky research here, is about a broken foot when you're younger. That's all I know.
Oh, when I was in gymnastics. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I competed on a broken foot. I must have a really good pain tolerance.
Yeah.
So that was another, like, I think it was nationals. So it was a competition I worked all year to get to. Finally made it, like I'm there. I have this fracture in my foot, which I knew about before I'd left. Probably not the smartest thing, but you know, you're an athlete and you want to compete. Yeah, so same thing. Um, just super painful, but I wanted to compete so bad that I kind of shoved it aside and competed on it.
Yeah. And what happened there?
I did well. um, Same thing, didn't get injured further. I had it checked out before I left. Like, um, it was like a hairline fracture, so more like a stress fracture.
Yeah,
Overused.
just a small fracture, like
Yeah. So,
yeah.
well, more worried that I wasn't going to do further damage.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so I guess that's the kind of person I am.
Yeah. How old were you at that point?
um, I was like old. I say old for a gymnast. I think I was like 15, 16.
Okay. Yeah. And it's the same kind of pattern you see of like, okay, identify the event and like what's controllable in that factor, like what's the outcome that I want to work towards, and still working towards that. And I think I think the thing that's so nice about like you as an example of this is you seem to marry both worlds. You work very hard at training your mentality, and you also have signals of the upbringing that kind of works towards that, and found that like your mum was a javelin thrower, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, you
And
did do your
oh, I
research.
did a little bit. I dug around. Yeah, like what's it like growing up with a mum who's was it Olympics, like Olympic level, or she got selected for the Olympics?
She did make the Olympic team the year they boycotted, so I think
Oh,
1980.
yeah.
So she didn't get
And
a
what's it like growing up with your mum as an Olympic selectee?
yeah, I mean, she was an athlete her whole life, so she knows that like it can't get away with anything, basically. Um, but yeah, we were super, my brother and I, super active kids. We just did all the sports growing up, and yeah, I don't she didn't like push it on us at all. She wasn't like, oh, I got it to this level, like you should do that. Like never. It was kind of like find what sport you love to do, and my parents will support you through it.
Yeah. And were there any stories that she used to tell, like anything that she would like reminisce about in from training or competing, or maybe her experiences? Like they don't have to be.
And not anything like worth sharing.
And your dad as well. He competed at a decent level of, was it weightlifting and
Yeah,
wrestling?
like collegiate level. Yeah, weightlifting. He was a wrestler too.
Okay. Yeah. Was it very similar kind of thing there with not pushing, like do the sport, but more supporting you in your own individual journey?
Yeah. So apparently my dad was less talented than my mom. Like my mom got to a higher level, but my dad was like the hard worker, and he just was like relentless. And like, apparently that's who I take after. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but my dad would like push himself to the point of like getting physically sick. I remember he got like mono a few times. Well, I don't remember, I wasn't alive, but he would just like keep go, 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 go. And apparently that's what I'm like. So my parents had to kind of chill me out sometimes.
Okay. How did they do that? Or do you remember any times that they did that?
Yeah, I remember I wanted to go to gymnastics like all the time. And they held me back there a little bit at the beginning. I think they just didn't want me to burn out. Some of the other girls, by the time they're 10, they're kind of done because they've been training 5 hours a day since the time they were like 7, 6. So I got held back. I remember all the girls were going 4 or 5 days a week, and I only went 3 for a few years, just because I was doing soccer and other sports. But at the time, that's all I wanted to do. But they were kind of like, well, you're 8 years old. Like, we want you to do other sports. But then later on, that was like my decision, and that's what I chose. So
yeah, what was training for gymnastics like at that age? Like you said, obviously you found value from it. Like I'm guessing it's an enjoyment. Like, what was it that you're enjoying so much?
Just like at that age, just it's fun. You're flipping around, you're learning new skills. Like, it's super fun. I don't want to say until you. And when you're training 5 hours a day, like by the end, I would only go to school part-time, and then I would train the rest of the day. It's a lot, and you're exhausted and you're always injured, competing at that level. But I had no regrets. Like, the lessons I've learned and what I've done, like, zero regrets.
Yeah. How do you think your gymnastics career stood you in good stead for this?
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Like, everything from like the work ethic and the determination you have to have, and just like the perseverance to stick with it to learn a skill. Like, a CrossFit skill has never taken me long as a gymnastics skill to learn. Like, because it's just so much more technical in gymnastics, right? Like, I've worked on skills for years before I've got them in gymnastics. And then, so CrossFit seems easy. It's like, oh, how long did it take me to learn a muscle up? I don't know, like a week. Like, that was probably the longest skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like you've shown yourself like this threshold of like, oh, okay, this is how hard I can work. This is how patient I can be. This is the complexity that I can hit, and the hard work element. But like, if everything else is there, and that's like typical exposure therapy. Like, you incrementally creep up and just like show yourself, actually, you know what, I am capable of this. And then everything below that, it seems a little bit easier, even though it's the same task. You just seem, actually, it's not that it seems easier, it's that you feel more capable. And that's the thing you're teaching yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Are there any similarities in the way that you train now compared to training for gymnastics?
Well, the hours. It's a lot of hours.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. I think, well, it's 2 different sports, but there are a lot of similarities. Like gymnastics, you had 4 events. CrossFit's obviously you do more than 4 things, but it's highly variable, and there's always like little things you can do. Like in gymnastics, okay, I had a foot injury, but I could do conditioning and I could do bars. CrossFit, you have a foot injury. Okay, you can do upper body. You can maybe row. You can do the machines. Like, there's a lot of adaptations that you can do similar.
Yeah. You said, sorry, jumping around a little bit here, but something caught my mental eye. You mentioned that your dad taught you hard work and that perseverance and that grit and tenacity. What do you think you got from your mum?
Ooh, good question. Didn't get her throwing arm, that's for sure. I still throw like a girl. Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Sports-wise, I don't know. Like, personal-wise, I could give you a list, but sports-wise.
Okay, personal-wise.
Just like, I think just her loving, caring, like, attitude, like, and her humbleness, I think, is a big one. Like, you'd never know if you talk to her that what she's done athletic. Like, she would never bring it up. she would, and if you brought it up, she just kind of like, oh yeah, like, and then like start a new conversation. Like she's not one to brag at all. And I think that's a big thing. And my parents definitely keep me very grounded. Like even if I've had success, they like they're proud of me, but they're very they know that, you know, you can come back to the ground very quickly. And everyone loves you when you're winning and you're doing well. And yeah, they kind of can see through. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, if they've experienced that kind of adulation when you're winning, they know that like that almost like the love's not as important, but the support almost isn't as important. Then it's those times when you're at your lower points, which is inevitable with training.
Yeah.
And competing, of course.
Mm-hmm.
What going for a deep question? What would be the lowest point of your let's say CrossFit career?
The lowest point, I think early on, like 2018, not making regionals. I'd made regionals 2017. I finished, I think, 9th. I was like, okay, gearing for 2018, like maybe I'll crack the top 5 and make the games. Like, that was the goal anyways. And then didn't even make regionals that year. And it was quite, at the time, it was devastating.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, because you feel like, okay, like I finally cracked this kind of group and I'm going up, and then you just like don't even make it to. And I think, again, like I equated that gymnastics, I didn't make nationals for like 3 years. And that was like kind of the regional, I guess, kind of level. And at the time, again, that was devastating also. And I remember I felt like my life was ending. Like, and I remember my mom telling me like, this will pass. Like, and of course I didn't believe her. And then a month later, I'm okay. And yeah, I kind of remembered that at regionals, like, this will pass. Like, I'll be better in a bit. And yeah, you get over it. It makes you stronger.
Yeah. It's hard, right? When you've kind of, I'd say constructed your whole, but a lot of your identity resides around like, okay, this is who I am. And a lot of your self-worth at that point is coming from not only like, I'm this kind of athlete who has done this, but also I'm this kind of athlete who's going to do this. And this is the prediction, the expectation that I hold.
Yeah, that's super hard. And then going back to like what you're going to say, what I learned from my mom is like, she also reminds me like, that's not your only, like, you're not only Emily, like CrossFit Games athlete, like you're a loving daughter, you're a wife, like you have a job, you help people in other ways, like you're good for other things than just CrossFit.
So in my opinion, that is such a huge thing that she taught you about athletics, because it's like, it's the other half of it. And we all see people who overemphasize one half of their life without the balance of another. Like the businessman whose health is atrocious, and in the opposite way, the CrossFit box owner whose business is atrocious but his fitness is fantastic. And you see that kind of imbalance. So being able to balance it out, it's a really cool yin yang almost of maternal paternal care.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's cool. And it's hard because you only want to do what you're good at, obviously, right? And if you're thriving in one area, like that's what you want to do, and that's what you want to do more. So yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. That's so taking me back to those the fact that you didn't meet regionals that year. What, you obviously said it was devastating. What did you change as a result of that?
My training. Changed coach, changed my training basically. I think I moved to a different gym around that time too. Yeah.
How was that decision? Like, there's so many people that we work with, or that we coach, or people that I just know and like I'm friends with, who have a disappointing performance, and then they're like, oh, I don't know whether to change coach. And also it happens with lots of things, like changing gym, even changing supplements. It feels like this kind of, I'm sacrificing something, I'm risking something. How did you justify that risk?
Yeah, you know, it was hard. Like leaving what you're comfortable and your friends. I was really worried about my friends are at this gym.
Yeah, of course.
But I was lucky that that scenario was kind of a long time coming. There was a lot of things going on at the gym that people were leaving, people were moving. And so it was kind of perfect that it went hand in hand with, and I also was a little bit outgrowing the coach that I had. And so the writing was a little bit on the wall anyways. So that made it a ton easier to move.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. It's just interesting that you phrased that as it was lucky. Like it was like a positive thing that happened to you. Like lots of people would say, okay, that's a shit thing that's happening
like
to me.
looking back, it's the best thing. I don't think, had I not done that and switched coaches, like I don't think I would have made the games for sure the first time.
Yeah, like, and that's the kind of, because it's equally as true. This is the thing about mindset that I find so fascinating. Like you're not trying to find a rose tinted view of the world. Like you're trying to find a more true reflection of the world. And often when we're like, oh, I can't do anything, this is like crap, poor me, that's not a true reflection of the world. Like, yes, something shit's happened. Like you've had a bad break, but like you can still act appropriately. You can still make a decision. And like, even if you went too far the other way into like rose tinted world, like you wouldn't be you'd be like, oh, everything will be fine. Like I'll do whatever. And so like to have that perspective is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my mental coach, he does say that. He says, like, I'm never gonna lie to you. Like, I'm not gonna tell you there's no weeds on the ground and you look down and there's weeds on the ground. Like he's like, I'm not gonna try to lie to you, but you have to look at the facts and you look at them as they are and not worse than they are. And then you deal with it.
Yeah. Which you did in terms of competing with a broken foot and also getting E. coli or whatever the disruption was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's something practical, and it's something that you've had reinforced through, I think, your upbringing and also through the hard work that you put in.
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide to work with Brett?
When I made the games in 2019 the first time, randomly like met him. Just total random. Like my husband was shopping at a store that's not even CrossFit, and Brett was wearing like a CrossFit shirt. And then Kyle was like, "Oh, you do CrossFit?" And then they just got started talking. And Brett kind of told him what he did, and I wasn't there, but Kyle told me, and I was kind of like, I was very, I don't want to say cynical, but I was very like, I don't really need that. Like, you know, if I train my body, like I don't really need to, like, I'm a pretty strong mental person. I think I'm pretty strong mentally, like already, but not nearly as I had like now with working with Brett. But at the time I was kind of like, oh, it's a bit hocus pocus. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I agreed to meet with him, and then we just did some exercise. Like the first time I met, he just did some like mind game kind of exercises, and just the ones that kind of make you, oh, like I thought this and I thought that. And then like I kind of started to think, and I was like, well, maybe like, why not try? Why would you say no to something that might make you better?
So yeah, what was the driver there? Like, what was the thing that you hope to get?
Better. I think just to use my full potential. Because like if I'm a 10 out of 10 athletically going into the games, I feel totally ready. But mentally you're a 7, like you're not gonna do as well as you want. Like why I'm working so hard in the gym and physically, like why would I let that go to waste if I'm not up par with my mental also?
Did you feel like you weren't giving 100% of your physical capacity at the time, or is it kind of I just want to make sure all bases are covered?
No, I felt like I was giving 100% physically, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. And then what was that decision like? Obviously because we speak to a lot of people obviously who are in that position. It's like, okay, I don't know whether to commit to a mindset coach. Like, is it really worth it? you justified it with like, okay, I'm going to see just how far I can go. What was that decision process like along the way?
It wasn't like a big hard, oh, I gotta think long and hard about it. Like I say, like after that first meeting, I kind of realized maybe he can help me a little bit. Maybe he's got some like things that can help. And again, I'm just thinking, well, it's like, why would you train super hard at the gym and then come home and eat McDonald's all the time? Like so
Mhm.
like, why not work on, no, you're going to eat well because that's going to fuel your training and help you get better. So, if you have an awful mindset, which I didn't think I had an awful mindset, but nobody's perfect. Like I'd never had mental training before. So I was like, I'm sure there's a ton that I can get better on.
Yeah. I'd say that you've never had conscious mental training before, but I think there's been things that have led up to create subconscious beliefs and subconscious patterns, which are like really serving.
Yeah. I think now that you've like brought it out of me, like about my past. Yeah. I can kind of see maybe.
Yeah. It's like that pattern of the two of them working together, like that's symbiosis of like proper environment and proper fortitude and hard work on your own part have really come together. That's again why I got you on the show. What was that like? So working with Brett, what does that look like?
So that when I first started working with him, we had 5 weeks until the games. Like it was quick.
Yeah, that's quick.
Yeah.
To change or to help modify a lifetime's worth of beliefs. That's intense. Yeah.
He would, yeah. And he said the same thing here. I'm like, oh, 5 weeks is tons of time. What are you on about? Like,
Yeah.
but he was like, this is nothing. As a mental coach, I guess. So leading up to there, I was seeing him probably like at least 3 times a week. And he was checking in. Like I would probably talk to him every day. We'd do things. He had me do exercises like homework. He would give me stuff to do at work when I was working night shifts, when it was really slow. Like I did a lot of stuff leading up to the games. And then even the next kind of year, I guess it's been over 2 years now. Now I see him about once a week. Unless we're leading up to, again, like the games or something, then I see him a lot more. But I'm a little more spread my wings now.
Go on, what do you mean by that?
Oh, like
self-sufficient?
Sorry?
Like kind of self-sufficient?
Yeah, more than, I think at the beginning when you work with a mental coach, you're like a baby, like you need constant monitoring. Now, I've learned so much and I'm a little bit more like, if I got myself in a bit of a pickle 2 years ago, I would need to call Brett and be like, okay, I'm freaking out. What do I do? Like they announced the games, they were going to cut to half in 2019 after the first event. Well, I heard that. I panicked. I freaked out. Like this year, I hear about the cuts. I can deal with it because I'm like, okay, well, this and this and this and this. And, and I'll talk to him still, but I can deal with a lot of things first before I go into straight panic.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the things that you've got there is awareness. And I probably something you've worked on with him, I'm going to assume. I was listening to a podcast of yours, or maybe reading an interview a while back, and you said something like you worked on documenting your thoughts. Was this tell me about that.
Yeah. So that was one of the first things he made me do. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it because he's like, write everything down that comes in your head. Well, you don't realize how many things just come in your head and then whoop, and then they're gone. And negative things too, like, oh, that girl's so good at this and she's going to beat me in that. And like, just like random things that you really don't realize it until you have to write them down. And yeah, that was a big eye opener. And I had to do that a lot.
What did you learn through that process?
Sorry?
What did you learn through that process?
That was kind of step one of one of the exercises. And then we'd kind of go through it. And then I would learn how to like deal with these thoughts as soon as they came in, and like, or else you're going down the trajectory, but then I kind of learned as soon as I notice it and like snap back to where I'm meant to be, especially in training. It's really important, or else your session will go to poop.
Yeah. It's almost like with a strength conditioning program where like, or someone, people want to dive straight in. They want to like, okay, what are my percentages? And it's like, well, if you don't know your 1RMs now, like what percentage should you go from? If you don't know your current position, if you don't know where you are and your mental patterns, like how are you going to create change? What are you going to change from? So like, I find that every successful athlete in this like starts with, okay, I'm going to test my mindset. I'm going to see where I am right now. I'm going to see like, okay, what's going through my mind? And you often find it is a lot of like comparison or negativity or doubt or fear or like all these kind of things. And do you still go through a conscious process of documenting your thoughts, or is this something that you kind of do because you're more aware of it now?
I'm definitely more aware of it now. I don't write them down anymore unless he makes me do it. um, but yeah, that was kind of a basic kind of first exercise that I had to do. And yeah, now I can kind of deal with it.
Yeah, because you practiced. That's sweet. And you like, I've got a note here as well, a little quote that you said something like, one of the things you learned is that if you believe you don't belong, you won't belong. Something like that. Was that something? Yeah, it's a really good one. Like, well done. You get a free high five for that.
Oh yeah.
Belonging and like feeling like you're good enough to be somewhere, like at the next stage of competition, for example, or even signing up to a box for the first time is like a huge thing that gets in people's way. So is this something that you've personally struggled with?
I think I really did at the beginning, especially when you just make the games the first time and you're like, well, like I'm going to be competing with those girls like Katrin. I read her book. Like I looked up to her, you know, she was the queen kind of thing. And now she's going to be beside me. Like, are you sure? Like, so I think a lot of girls, especially like when you first make your first games, you're like, well, kind of deer in headlights, starstruck. And how can you not really? Like, those are the girls you watch on TV, and then now you're there. Like, so I think that was one of the main things we really worked on leading up to my first games. And even after that, like I think I finished 18th. Like I had a decent showing. But you're still kind of like, oh, maybe that was just, I got lucky, or, you know. And then, yeah, so I think even leading up to Dubai that winter, there was quite a good caliber of athletes there. I think I was still like, are you sure? Like I'm at this level. Yeah, so I think that's something we've really worked through. Brett would probably bang his head against the wall if you ask him like that, but
yeah, do you remember how you worked through it, or is it like something that you've kind of been talking about, or is it like because what I'm trying to get at is like, how did you prove that you do belong there to your subconscious?
Yeah, many things. Not something that I can just say, oh, I just did this and that's what I did. Like many exercises, many sessions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of time, lots of work.
Yeah. I think that's the key here. Like you can't change a lifetime's worth of unconscious patterning in a few hours.
No,
it takes work.
Yeah.
Takes work. When I was speaking to Brett as well, like, or sending him an email, I asked him for like what you do exceptionally well, and he said you maintain conscious control. And to dig into that, I think like what he was expanding on, or what he did go on to expand, is like this ability to keep this fire whilst being in conscious control, whilst being aware of where you are right now. And this is something that a lot of athletes struggle with. They think that, or if I start working on my mindset, I'll become a Zen monk and I won't be able to find that fire, that grit, that kind of that aggression that is really useful. But also if you go too far the other way, I'm sure you've had events where you've been like mentally fired up. It's like, yeah, I want to smash this. And then you just crush yourself and you can't maintain it.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
like, oh, I've got 5K left to run. I can't keep this up.
Both ways. And I think I kind of thought that too. Like, I'm not really into the meditation kind of, you know, but that's the furthest thing from working with him. Like he's done the opposite for me. Like, I've kind of learned how to get like kind of be calm on the outside and inside be like ready to crush, which is really cool because that's what you want when you're competing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're right. There's a couple times, I mean, and that's just adrenaline too. You have to learn how to control it. But the event at the games with the hay bale, sandbag throw over hay bale, I was just so amped that the first burpee over the sandbag, I just threw myself over. There's actually a photo of me just like falling over. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm just so psyched and I just put way too much energy into. So like small things like that, like you learn.
Yeah, like, and again, it's that awareness that I think you've cultivated that helps you go, oh, okay. Because some people might have got like 4 or 5 reps into that and just be like, oh shit, I'm crushing it. Like I'm excited. Whereas you had that, okay, probably not great to vault this and just.
Yeah, that and like the opposite too. I remember the first event at the games in 2019, I failed the legless rope in like the second or third round, I think 3 times. I came within like a couple feet of the top and failed 3 times in a row. And you know, rope climbs are like kind of like handstand push-ups. Like once they go, you're in a bad place. And that was a huge. It would have been very easy to kind of panic and not give up, but kind of be like, well, I'm screwed. Like now my forearms are shot. I've just done waste of energy. I've done 3 rope climbs. Like, what am I going to do? And I think I was very smart mentally and disciplined that I remember looking at the clock and being like, okay, like I've got 2 minutes left. I need to rest till 1:40 and then go and get it done and not, and yeah, if you panic and freak out, like you're done. And it's very hard on an event like that where your body is kind of failing you.
Yeah. It's actually one place you see numerous kind of or frequent challenges mentally, like with a rope hanging in front of you. It's like for some reason with a heavy barbell, we're pretty all right at going like, okay, I'm going to take a step back. And it's like, maybe because that's what weightlifting training is. It's like, okay, I'm going to take 3 minutes and then go back to it. But like, there's something about a rope dangling in front of you. It's like intimidating. It's like, you've got to get to the top, especially when you get so close to getting up there. What did you tell yourself in that moment?
I remember.
Yeah, I know it's like, yeah, thinking 2 years. What was every thought 2 years ago?
I remember the first thought, I was like, oh no, like, is this going to be it? Like my parents have come all this way and I'm going to be cut after this event. So Brett will slap me for that because that would not help. But yeah, so like that comes in your head and you got to get rid of it and replace it with something that's going to help you or else you're spiraling down real quick.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And whilst we're on the subject, like how do you like analyze a workout and see, okay, this is going to require more of this mentality or more of this mentality, or is it a kind of fairly consistent state that you're trying to find or realize for each event?
Kind of both. You know, if it's a 10-round event, you kind of know, okay, round 6, 7, 8, that's when it's going to hurt and that's when you're going to want to let up and quit. And I think it kind of helps, like, you know, that's coming and like, you can't sugarcoat that. Like, you know, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. So I think if you're prepared for it and you know, like it's going to hit you, then you can be more well equipped for when it does.
Would you say that your mentality is different, or does it feel different to be you when you're doing, I don't know, a ruck run or swimming with fins on for, was it a mile, compared to, okay, this is like the final, actually, yeah, compared to a sprint event?
The what sprint event?
To any sprint event, to maybe the 400-meter run or something like that.
And what was the question?
Does it feel different mentally? Does it, like, do you kind of modulate how you feel?
Yeah, I think the long events, you can kind of coach yourself mentally through it when you're doing it. I remember the ruck run, just like, yeah, telling myself a lot of things, but in a sprint event like that, you kind of got to get yourself in the zone before you go, and then 3, 2, 1, go, and you just go, because it's a minute. Like, it's so quick. But when you have 30 minutes of running, there's a lot that can go on in your head during that time.
Yeah. You've also got, you got more time to screw up mentally, and also more time to coach yourself mentally. Like you said, you've got more opportunities to make advances if you are stronger mentally.
Yeah. And that's the part that I said, right? That's what I think of. You have more, like, I didn't even enter my mind that you have more time to screw up mentally. Like, I'm just totally thinking, no, you have like so much time to like tell yourself things that you need to do.
Exactly. That's awesome. To switch tack completely, you're a radiographer, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. How did you get into that?
I knew I wanted to work in the health industry. I thought about med. I kind of wanted to go that route, but at that time I was still doing gymnastics like super heavily in university, and that was my priority at the time. So school is like, I did my Bachelor of Science, and then I was kind of thinking med or physio or pharmacy. I shadowed a bit of pharmacy. Not really enough interaction for me. So this was kind of my plan C, and I ended up moving to Vancouver and going to school, and here we are.
Yeah, it seems interesting because lots of people use it as, actually, what would you say to those people who say, I can't get to my next level of performance because I work X number of hours?
Yeah, see, again, there's a way to like, I would be lying if I said that doesn't enter my head sometimes. Like, oh, maybe I should postpone work for a few years and just go full-time athlete and see what I can do. And I've thought about it, but I think it gives me so many benefits to work also. Like, I'm the type of person, like we were talking about, like my dad, like I will overtrain. If I have more time, I will keep training. I will do more training. If I'm sitting at home and I'm not working, well, I might as well train, like, so I think it keeps me from overtraining. It kind of gives me a mental break for sure. Cause I'm like, when you're always at the gym and everything's CrossFit, like going to work and doing something totally different, like that's refreshing. So to me, I think it's a good balance for now anyways.
Yeah. I'd say it also gives you an extra advantage, which it allows you to develop other elements of your potential that you wouldn't get through purely CrossFit.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. And my time management, like, it's impeccable. It has to be.
I bet.
And I'm a lot more like, if you have more time, you waste more time. And if I have an hour to do my strength session in the morning because I have to go to work, like I'm doing it, the rest periods are to the T, like I'm not talking to anyone, like I'm just getting it done. Whereas, the days off, I could spend as long as I want and it takes me double as long because, you're on your phone in between and like, you're just like, it's good. It keeps me regimented.
Yeah, there's this thing, Parkinson's law. A task expands to the amount of time that you allot it, and it's the same thing with your homework. It's like if someone gave you homework and you got 4 weeks to do it, it's like, oh, I'm gonna do that the night before.
It's so human like tendency to procrastinate, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're imposing those limits. I'm assuming this is what you meant. I read somewhere as well that you said something like your work is the most challenging element of your training. I'm assuming it's the timing, or is there something different?
Yeah, the timing, like
energy.
Yeah, getting my training done around work. I mean, I'd be lying if I said training wasn't my priority. It is over work. But I can't not go to work. Like, I still got to plan my day around work because I have to show up. So yeah, just the timing. And there's the nights, like I said, I'm on lates this week. So, I'm tired and I want to go home and go to bed. And I still have 2 hours that I have to stay. Like those times I'm like, oh, like maybe it'd be nice not to work. But on the whole, I think it's good for me to do both.
Of course. Something that lots of people don't consider like a mindset tool is simply managing time. Are there any tools that you use or any processes that you go through to like make sure that you are punctual with things, that you're impeccable with time management?
Yeah, I think just planning ahead. So if you have all your food done, all your meals done, like that's a huge, because I get stressed out if I don't have my food ready. And I think that's a huge thing if I have all that ready to go. And then even on my busy days, sometimes I literally plan it out. I'll be like, okay, from 8 to 10, I'm training. 10 to 10:15, I eat breakfast. 10:15 to 10:30, I drive to the gym. Like, and then, training again from 2 to 4, and then I work at 4:30, like drive to work. Like if you have it down to like, you can't fail that, because you look at the time, oh, 10:15. Okay, now I have to do this. Like it seems very simple, but I find that helps if I have
it just makes you so efficient. It's like, yeah, you're actually doing what you should do. And also,
yeah, you're basically setting deadlines that you have to be, you have to make work.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like an AMRAP or actually even for a time, like you just go, okay, right, this is happening at this time. When it gets to 2 minutes, this is how I'm changing tactics. When I finish this rep, this is how I'm moving on. That kind of consistent moving forwards mentality.
Exactly.
When has this become the most challenging to like create that balance?
I think, well, working night shifts is hard.
Yeah.
That's the part I don't like. And I think training, like games training, that was tough this year, because sometimes like I have 3 sessions a day.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I work at 4:30, so I need to finish 3 sessions by 4 so I can shower and drive to work. Like a couple of those days were like, how am I going to do this? But I did.
Yeah, like, because again, like were there any thoughts that would pop up there that you would go, okay, I've noted that's not helpful?
Yeah, just like the, man, like I wish I could spread those 3 sessions out more, and then I could just like sit on my couch and hypervolt my legs for the rest of the night, like, or just thinking about what your competitors are doing.
And then
because I even have some of the doctors I work with, they're like, oh, your competitors aren't working right now, and they try to like get me to like break.
Yeah.
But that, I just have to think, like this is what's working for me, and not everyone thrives off being full-time athlete too. Like a lot of people have quit their jobs and done way worse.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not necessarily just a free ticket to doing better in your sport if you quit your job either.
Yeah. If anything, there's almost like more pressure on you if you do that, because it's like, oh, this is all I do now. This is just me.
I think that's another thing too. Like, because Pat Vellner, he works too. He two days a week, but he doesn't need to work. But I think he's the same as me. Like he enjoys something outside of the sport, and something totally different, and a different clientele you're hanging out with. And he said the same thing to me. He's like, you're under so much pressure to win money or to do well if that's all. But he's like, if you have this job that you can basically make some money, then you can compete just for the love of it, and because you enjoy it, not because you have to make a living. And then what if you get injured? You're also screwed. Like when injuries are so prevalent in our sport, like, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not like you're in the NBA and you're earning like
no, I'm not going to get a
$1 billion
paid
around. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it makes sense. And I think there's also something very beneficial to humans about having structure. It's just like, okay, this is my routine. This is the thing that I go through. Because otherwise, like, you're just like, oh, I could do anything. Like I can just be anything today that I want to be, as long as I do these 3 training sessions, and they probably blend into each other. It's it makes things a bit more challenging. Yeah.
But like the last week, I've been starting to train again, but only like once a day, couple hours, like nothing compared to games training. But I'm like, I sleep in, I have my coffee, like that's all I get done. And then I go to work and I'm like, how did I fit all this other stuff? Plus like house chores, like how it's like the more time you, like you said, the more time you have, the more, and then I just can't fathom how, I did work and everything all else. Like,
yeah, it's exactly that. It's exactly that. I've got a few more questions that I want to touch on before I let you get on with your day. It's your rigorously scheduled day. So like you've been described by one of the people that I spoke to as one of the happiest people that they know. What, like a lot of people use like ambition as an excuse to sacrifice their mental health. Like, what do you think about that?
What do you mean they use ambition?
So it's like, I'm going to, if I feel shit and I feel awful the whole time and I'm grumpy and I'm miserable and I don't feel happy, that's okay because I'm achieving this or I'm pursuing this.
Oh, I see. Huh. I'm not sure I've met someone like that. But I don't think that's ever okay. And it's just like, you don't have to be like that. Like you can still be very focused and stay true to your goals and like work your ass off, and you can still be a decent human too. Like you're not taking energy away from that to make yourself better. Like,
I think we can agree with that. I think
yeah.
everyone can agree with that. Yeah, it's like it can sometimes be like this, oh, I've got to hustle and grind, and that grind feels awful every day. But I think that just shows that values aren't aligned, or you're doing something that's not quite
Yeah.
right for you.
And I think that can be confused with like, yeah, I have to make some sacrifices. You know, my friends are all going out. They're going to stay out late, and, you know, I've got work and training the next morning starting early. You know, maybe I'm not going to go out with them this time. But I think that's a little bit different.
Yeah. What's been the highlight of your CrossFit career?
Ooh. Probably like winning an event at the games.
Cool. What event like would you pick as like that's the one?
I mean, the Rock was like my first games, my first event win. So that's special in itself. And then this last one was like so special because of what I'd gone through the day before.
Yeah.
Like because of all the things that I'd had to jump through to even get there and win that event was like, yeah, that was pretty cool.
So feeling like, yeah, what was it like, or what did it feel like going into that event?
I was nervous. I think you can agree, like I feel more nervous on events that I know I can do well on. I don't know.
To lose.
Yeah, it's just more pressure, I think, because you're like, okay, well, it's mine to lose. Yeah, so I think I was nervous, but I was just so, I want to say relieved, because I was like quite aggressive, but I was so thankful that I felt okay. And I wasn't feeling like yesterday, like the day before.
Yeah. And what does it feel like to be, I'm trying to get as many people's perspective on this as possible, because I think there's some like home truths about that flow state, what we call free nature at Mindset Rx, but like flow state, the peak performance, that kind of feeling. Like, what does that feel like for you when you're in an event like that, when you can feel yourself accelerating beyond the pack, or you can feel yourself kind of like hitting that stride? What does that feel like mentally?
I mean, I played a lot of mental games with myself throughout that workout. Even like, you have to kind of know your competitors and know, like when we were running around the back of the stadium and there was crowds of people like leaning over the fence, I noticed a lot of the girls would speed up through that area because you kind of get hyped because everyone's cheering for you. And yeah, the pack kind of always sped up through that area. And so I knew, okay, well, as soon as we pass the crowd and it's quiet and we're around the back and no one's there, that's when everyone's going to slow down. And it was coincidentally, that was where you kind of turned a corner and there was a tiny little incline of a hill and the wind would hit you there too. So I was like, boom, like this is my spot. This is where everyone's going to mentally kind of break. And that's where I'm going to fire it, because, you know, if you see when it gets hard and you see someone blow past you on that area, you're like, oh shoot, like you kind of already give up. You see her go by and you're like, oh, well, like she's gone. So it's kind of, there's a way you can play like mental games on other people too, yeah. Which is perfect for a long event. I mean, you can't do it in a sprint, but something that's long and that has laps, and it happens, what, 6 times or however many laps we did.
Yeah. The obstacle is the way, right? Like to some, it's like an obstacle, or some it's something that gets in the way. And then like for anyone who's prepared for it, it's the opportunity. Like that is your chance to, like, because you know how everyone else is going to be feeling. It's like, I know I've got this. This is me. It's exciting. It's good to get to that point.
Yeah, and like inside, yeah, it's hard. You're dying. It's not like you have a burst of energy, but like mentally, you've won people over already. And
yeah. Lance Armstrong used to use a similar tactic, and like everyone used to grind in the Tour de France, used to grind out these massive big gears really slow, and they'd be like showing like this grit and the pain. There's all these photos, and he would go, okay, I'm going light gears, and I'm going to keep my face as neutral as possible and cruise past them on the hill, and he'd still be working incredibly hard breathing, but he's like, I'm going to try and nasal breathe. I'm just going to try and like ghost past them almost. And that, he said, that was his point, that he knew everyone else was shot, because it's just like, okay, I'm in control. They don't feel in control, and they're letting that on their face and in their expression, and everyone else knows it.
Exactly. Same thing.
Do you have any daily practices or regular habits that you use to keep your mental state in the best place?
Yeah, I have like a little morning routine that I do.
Yeah. Can you dig into that?
Not really.
Cool. No worries. Is there anything that you find useful, for example, journaling, meditation, mantras, visualization?
Visualization for sure.
Yeah.
And then going, like, I've learned that in my gymnastics, like we would have to visualize your beam routine. Like, and I remember being injured, and you'd do that. You'd sit there with ice after you've done your conditioning and stuff, and you'd go through 5 beam routines in your head.
Nice.
And I remember the year I was the most injured with that foot injury, I probably did the least amount of numbers physically of beam routines, and I stuck every single beam routine I competed in that year. And I was like, oh, I guess it works. Yeah.
And then final question, how do you describe a great mindset?
Ooh, you should have given me that one to think about.
Yeah, I know. I thought I'd make it really difficult to finish.
How do you describe it? I don't think you can describe it. You can, I don't know, you can see it, but
and you can feel it.
Yeah, you can feel it for sure.
So what does that, like, because there's times when you're not in that state, and there's times when you are in that state. Like, what does it feel like when you are in that state? Is it like busy with words? Is it like emotions?
No. It's kind of like, I don't want to think this is a bad equation, but like if you equate it to, if you're out at a party and you're kind of like, don't know anyone, and you're like, ugh, that's kind of bad. And then if you like get some drinks in you and you're like intoxicated, and then you feel like very invincible and like you're going to take on the world, like it's kind of like that.
Yeah. One of them's overthinking, one of them's not thinking, one of them's just being that space for awareness. Like you just say, I'm going to, like, whatever my will is, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Thank you so much for your time. Where can people find out a little bit more about you?
Instagram, I guess. That would be my main.
What's your handle again?
My name, Emily _Rolfe 19.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.